So, hello, fellow Earthlings. This is Earthling 64554637228, or Earthling 6 billion something. Anyway, I wanted to talk about three young women and the differences between them. The first, and I guess the central character, is Willow Smith. At some point in her life, I guess when she was 9, she had a hit song called Whip My Hair. The second person that I wanted to talk about was Billie Eilish, who, a little bit older, I think, at about 16 years old, um, began to become a superstar. Um, I don't know if this is something that she was training for all of her life, but you know. The third young lady I wanted to talk about was Jennette McCurdy. She was the best friend character of iCarly on iCarly. So what is in common with all of these three young women? Well, as far as I know, um, each of them had a strong dislike for continuing along the path that they were already on once they were famous at some point. So Willow Smith, Will Smith has repeatedly told the story about how when Willow got that single with my hair, she was supposed to go on tour. She was supposed to, you know, basically become a star, like Billie Eilish, for example. Um, but she said no, she didn't want to do it. She's done. And through a sequence of events, she cut her hair. Her parents let her, give it up. Billie Eilish, at some point, because she did these, I think it was Variety interviews. Every year she would do these interviews, and she spoke about how she hated going on tour. I don't know which year it was that she said. I think maybe it's the first one. She basically hated it. Yeah, she was away from her friends, and she was lonely, and she didn't like it. And Jennette McCurdy, basically she was coerced into continuing to act, even though she didn't want to. Eventually, her mother died, and she got out of acting altogether, and she looks back on it, and she is not happy with any of the things that she's done. Now, wheeling back to Willow Smith. Willow Smith was lucky enough that it did not make one lick of difference to her financially, whether or not she continued along the path that she was in. It didn't make any difference. Her father was a movie star. Her mother was an actress as well, and a well-known one. It wasn't going to make any difference to their family's circumstances if she continued. With respect to Billie Eilish, she, as far as I know, was poor. Not dead broke poor, but certainly not well off at all. And the same thing for Jennette McCurdy. She was the breadwinner for her family. And I think part of the reason that her mother was able to coerce her to continue acting was because, yeah, she could see that. She could see that she was helping her family. Of course, in the case of Willow Smith, it became a pivotal moment for Will, where he could see, hey, this one's different. I could have pushed Jaden. Um, his biggest son Trey, I guess, was never in a movie. His mother probably wouldn't allow that, but he can push Jaden. But Willow, that's it. And Willow says that it created a rift in her relationship with her parents. And her parents were surprised to hear that. I think her mom, when she was on Red Table Talk, she talked about the fact that she cut herself a bit. Um, but she had that flexibility. Um, it was not something that was really going to improve the circumstances of her family. So, the consequences of backing out, yeah, I mean, she might find that she might never achieve that level of fame in for the rest of her life. You know, if you listen to people like Rihanna and well, this guy Graham Stephan from YouTube, he says you don't know when this is going to end, and you don't. You have no idea when it's going to end. If you look at a bunch of different actors' careers, one moment you're hot, and the next moment you're not, and you're in no more movies. I think it's Brendan Fraser. He was in the Mummy movies. He was in that movie where he came up from a bomb shelter. He was in a bunch of movies. He was the guy, and then poof, it ended. That was it. So Willow had Whip My Hair, and she may never have anything again. Yeah, she sings, she performs, she does whatever. But like Eminem says, if you only got one shot, do not miss your chance to blow, because opportunity knocks once in a lifetime. She's comfortable. She does not need the money. She still performs, so maybe she wants, what you get from performing, but that might have been it. And her parents, not needing her to perform, um, they gave her that out, I guess you could say. With respect to Billie Eilish, her parents became her manager. Her mom takes care of everything for her. She goes on tour with her, as far as I know, and just helps. She has her brother who was made songs with her. I don't know what role her father really played, but she didn't want to go on tour. She repeatedly said that. I think in at least two of these interviews with Variety, I think it was. I'm not sure. But then, strangely enough, in subsequent interviews, she has no problem with it. No problem with it whatsoever. She loves being on tour. She grew out of it. I mean, one of the things that happened, I think, was she got one of her really good friends to go with her on tour, and they had a really good time, and that changed it. I have no idea why Willow Smith didn't want to perform anymore. At some point, she wanted to do it. Um, and maybe it was that she missed her friends. Maybe that was it. Maybe just like Billie Eilish, somebody could have come on tour with her, and she would have been happier. But Will Smith has never talked about that. He's never his between Jada and him, they've talked about nothing that they said to Willow would get her to agree to continue to be on tour. And she hasn't said why she didn't want to be on tour. They didn't say why she didn't want to be on tour. But Billie Eilish didn't want to be on tour, and she outgrew it. And she's perfectly happy with her life now. She loves it. She's not even embarrassed about. She used to be embarrassed about talking about. I went over to Madonna's house. I went over to Kim Kardashian. She used to be embarrassed about saying stuff like that because she thought people would think that she was boasting because she had, I guess, ordinary friends as well. So, but no, Jennette McCurdy just completely stopped all acting whatsoever, as far as I know. What she did mention was that none of the people who she hung out with while she was acting on iCarly and all these other shows, they did not think that what she was doing was particularly cool. So I think, we can say, I don't know for Willow, but I would say that your friends, that seems to be the big deal for kids, is that they miss their friends and they miss their life. But in the case of Jennette, she was the breadwinner for her family, and especially while her mother was alive, she had to go through it. And she did, and her mother's dead, and she wrote a book that said, I'm glad my mother died. Because she could, and her mother apparently was, had one of these um, mental disorders, personality disorders. She was manipulative. Jennette has a podcast, and she spoke to somebody else who similarly had a manipulative mother. Um, but she was able to get over it. And one of the things she says is that she can take therapy now because of a financial status that she got because her mother, coerced her and manipulated her into doing what she did. So she has the privilege to look back on it, and she has the support of the therapist to uh, go through that and grow from it and be a better person, I suppose. But I suppose one of the things that I wanted to point out is Will came out of those circumstances, and I don't want to cast aspersions on Will, but based on how he's referred to things in the past, one wonders if he was less a movie star and more of um, a stay-at-home dad, because he says he's not the play catch and play ball kind of father. He's like, if you have a project and you want to excel, he's in. Or for example, when Jada wrote a book on raising kids, he was like, we don't do that, we don't do that, we don't do that. But at some point he was like, your mom, when he was talking to his kids, your mom did this and your mom did that. So he was not necessarily as involved as Billie Eilish's parents might have been, or Jennette McCurdy's parents might have been. He was on set, you know, um, and maybe in a different country, shooting movies for a lot of their childhood. I mean, with respect to Jaden, because Jaden was in some of his movies, at least three that I know of, they could be a little bit closer. But if you're closer with Jaden, that means that you're leaving Willow behind, and you're not going to have that connection with Willow. And she is a girl, and you already had a bunch of, let's say, conflict because Jada has said she went to war with Will over, I guess, what happened in Karate Kid. She felt that he was being pushed too much, and at some point, she says, Jaden said, "It's okay, mom. It's okay." He was in pain, and I guess he was doing a stretch, and he was in pain, and he says, "It's okay, mom," and that kind of reduced the pressure. But you're not going to be able to do that with your girl kid. You're not, and she's not the breadwinner, and you don't spank the way that your father did with you. You guys don't hit your kids, and I don't even. I mean, you teach them to be more independent and to have their own opinions and have their feelings. So yeah, and really, there's no consequences to Willow deciding not to perform, other than she just missed an opportunity. But financially speaking, it has no bearing on her life whatsoever, or on yours, or the family's. So I think, me personally, and this is where I guess I would chime in with my point of view. Yeah, I guess it's okay for Willow to not follow the family ethos of you have a job to do, you do it, you are a soldier, because that's what Will would say. That his father told him, you're a soldier, I send you on a mission. Two things happen. You either die or you complete the mission. And that's what Will internalized. And he says, I didn't care about my feelings, so I, certainly didn't care about yours. So when Willow is like, Daddy, don't you care how I feel? He's like, yeah. And then he learned, and I guess he carried it over to this best shape of his life thing, where I don't know that he was making the best use of his time. And at some point, he's like, I don't feel like doing taping the best shape of my life while I have this book to do and whatever else. And it's emotionally draining, blah 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 da da da, and I want it to be done. Well, you can get sued by either the people who, um, the publishers of the book. So I guess maybe there's a lot more money involved in that. You can also get sued by the people with respect to best shape of your life. I'm sure you signed contracts with them. So those are the consequences. But you already have a lot of money. You can pay them back. So I guess it's not really as bad. You have the leeway to say that. And it's the same thing as I said with Willow. If you've learned that lesson, that feelings matter, they mainly matter at your level. Um, in the best shape of my life, Will Smith was saying to his brother, he was talking to his brother, and he was like, yeah, feelings matter unless you're being run down by a pit bull. And his brother was like, you're just making up scenarios in order to fit the narrative that you want to tell. I'm paraphrasing, of course. And he didn't say anything else. He's like, huh, yeah. And he related another story where, he told a fan, no, I can't take a picture or I can't do a video with you. And he tried to be honest with the fan and says, because I don't feel like it. And the person was obviously turned off and didn't feel good about that interaction. And he went back home to his hotel and he cried about it. Well, yeah, there are consequences. There are consequences in life. And if you can live with it, then yeah. But for some people, like Eminem, to go from where he was, you have to squash your feelings for a while. And then you have enough money to get all the therapy that you want later on, like Jennette McCurdy. And yeah, that's it. I hope too many people who are in a bad situation don't forget about the consequences if they decide to take the path that Will Smith did in the taping of Best Shape of His Life, these videos that he has up on YouTube. So anyway, thanks for listening if you did, and have a good one. Peace.